All right, AP Psych class, we are now in Unit 5 already with Part 1, Consciousness and Sleep. This tends to be a topic that students enjoy studying in that we usually all are in desperate need of more sleep. So let's take a look first at some new vocabulary words concerning consciousness. When we talk about consciousness, we're just talking about an individual's awareness, mental activities that we are aware of occurring within our brain. If we discuss things that are at the non-conscious level, we're referring to the level that is inaccessible to conscious awareness. And so think autonomic nervous system, and think things like breathing, heartbeat, blood pressure, those sorts of things that we don't necessarily have conscious control over. We'll label all of that stuff at the non-conscious level. Preconscious is just a word that means that there is going to be information or thoughts that are not currently conscious but could easily become conscious when prompted. And so my question to you as you watch the video is, what did you have for dinner last night? Can you remember? Okay. I can't hear your answer because, this is a YouTube video and all. But if you could recite the answer to that question lied at the preconscious level until you were prompted to answer it, at which point it became available to your conscious thought. And so that's what preconscious means. Subconscious is going to be a very interesting level of consciousness to discuss. It's sometimes in the literature it'll be referred to as unconscious thought, but subconscious or unconscious is the level of thinking that influences consciousness, but is not always something we're necessarily aware of thinking. And so the example of this is that thoughts and feelings are more difficult to bring into awareness at this level. That's what makes it different than the preconscious level. And so in your reading, you may remember the experiment they did where people under general anesthesia were played a tape that contained 15 word pairs. And when these people awoke, they couldn't say what words were on that tape, or even that a tape was played during their time in the recovery room. However, when given the first word in each pair, the participants in the experiment, when just asked, what's the first word that comes to your mind, they would say the other word from the word pair that they had heard on their tape. And so that subconscious or unconscious level influences our thoughts, yet we're not necessarily aware of its influence on those thoughts. And subconscious and unconscious will become very big terms once we get to learning about psychoanalysis with Freud in Unit 10, and then later in Units 12 and 13 when we talk about psychodynamic therapies as a form of treatment for psychological disorders. Okay, now on to the moment we all have been waiting for, sleep. Now don't fall asleep while you're watching this video. Okay, circadian rhythms. Fancy word for our biological clock. Think back to Unit 3 when we talked about the specific areas of that midbrain and the limbic system, the reticular activating system, elements of the brain that were in charge of things like temperature, blood pressure, sleepiness, and wakefulness. There's your circadian rhythm. What's amazing about this is that it is working on about a 24-hour cycle. And so, strange as this may sound, if I were to kidnap you and place you in a room that gave you no cues as to the time of day, amazingly enough, your body would still keep track based on this internal clock that we all possess. When we talk about sleep, we need to talk about the stages of sleep. And so the picture there at the right hand side of your screen is just showing you just a visual of the different types of things that we would study when analyzing a person's sleep habits. We have electrodes measuring eye movement, an EMG, which would be measuring muscle tension, and our EEG, our electroencephalograph, measuring the activity within the brain. And so when all of this happens, we come up with our stages of sleep, which you can see on the diagrams below. And the stages of sleep are often associated with specific brain waves that have been assigned letters of the Greek alphabet. Now, why these letters do not go in Greek alphabetical order, I am not sure. But your sleep fraternity, the way to remember this, you want to join beta, alpha, theta, delta. And so let's talk about what happens. Well, right now, you are hopefully alert and paying attention to all this wonderful information that's being shared with you. And that means that if we had you hooked up to an EEG, we might see feedback involving beta waves. Beta are the awake and alert waves. If I were to tell you to relax or give you an opportunity to close your eyes and do some deep breathing, we might see a transition from awake and active beta waves to the more awake yet very relaxed alpha waves. And so on an EEG, you can actually see like the downshifting of the brain to the slower alpha wave. You might have those daydreams or those color and falling sensations during this time period. Once you fall asleep, we would say that you are in stage 1 sleep. And stage 1 sleep is going to be the theta waves. And you're going to stay here for about 30 or 40 minutes. And then you are going to move into stages 2, 3, and 4, with 4 being the deepest sleep. Stages 3 and 4 actually see a transition at the end of 3 and beginning of 4 from those theta waves to what are known as delta waves. All of that I have just described, from being alert and awake to relaxed to falling asleep to 1 to 2 to 3 and finally to 4, would be called NREM, or non-REM sleep. Okay, something amazing happens to you after you have went through those stages of sleep. And that is that you are going to enter a stage of sleep known as REM, or REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And so we will see the left eye on the electrodes start to show movement and very quick movement back and forth. And we see a lot of brain activity. If you look at the graphic at the bottom right, you can see that the REM sleep is very similar to those alpha waves when we were still awake, yet the person is definitely asleep. So what's happening during REM sleep? The person is dreaming. Although you could have thoughts that could be labeled as dreams during any stage of sleep, the most vivid and easily to recount memories or dreams are going to occur during this stage, during REM sleep. Okay, this is also known as paradoxical sleep, in that the muscles are very relaxed, but the rest of the body is very active, brain included. And so that whole process is going to take you approximately 90 minutes. And then if you look at the chart on the left, you're going to see that the more hours an individual sleeps, we have less of stage 4 deep sleep occurring and more of REM sleep occurring. And so what that tells us is, you know, the importance of sleeping, which we'll discuss here in a second. Okay. So, now that you know about the stages of sleep, okay, let's talk about the effects of sleep loss, okay. The brain it keeps a fairly accurate account of sleep. You kind of think of it as your bank account. You know, whenever you're awake, you're making withdrawals from your account, and whenever you're sleeping, you're putting deposits into your account. And so, you know, to sacrifice sleep for long, you know, periods of time, for weeks at a time, and then expect one night of restful sleep to make up for it is simply not sufficient. Without any restrictions, most adults would sleep about 9 hours a night. The older you get, the less sleep that you need. And I have some different videos and examples to show you in class that illustrate all of that. Okay, so sleep loss can cause a number of issues. Memory loss, depression, obesity, premature aging, hypertension, and increased likelihood of accidents. And so I'll share some more examples and articles with you in class about the dangers of not sleeping, which is sad given that we live in a culture that tends to almost view a lack of sleep as some sort of, badge of honor that, college students might wear, like that you can pull these all-nighters and still be functioning just fine. It's way more serious of a problem than our culture gives it credit. Right, so why do we sleep? What are some different theories of why people sleep? Well, sleep protects us from harm. There's a reason that humans aren't nocturnal. Right, our senses just don't seem to be adequate for that. And I think from an evolutionary psychology standpoint, individuals that didn't sleep in the evening might not have lived to pass on their genetic code. Sleep helps us recuperate. It we know is important for the storage of memories. We also know that creative thinking and physical growth need sleep. So there are, plethora of reasons that it is important for all of us to get our sleep. There are going to be some examples of medical issues that prevent people from getting sound sleep. And so some of the ones that you should be familiar with, insomnia is the inability to fall asleep or to stay asleep. And so the problem with insomnia is that even if we are getting short snippets of sleep, waking up periodically through the night means that we are starting this sleep stage from square one, meaning that we don't ever get those lengthy REM stages that are so desperately needed by the brain for proper functioning. Narcolepsy is a problem with falling asleep at random times, inappropriate times, and strangely enough, it seems to be that the individuals with narcolepsy, which is a very rare disorder, by the way, tend to enter REM sleep almost instantly without going through the stages in the normal sequence. Sleep apnea, a very common issue. Probably more Americans suffer from sleep apnea than are diagnosed with the issue. Sleep apnea is breathing interruptions that occur during sleep. And so, again, the person might not be consciously aware of it, but they are actually waking up multiple times at night because they had actually stopped breathing. And so, again, with insomnia, it's the same problem with sleep apnea. We don't get lengthy REM stages, and so we have all those problems with effects of sleep loss. And sleeping more doesn't help, right? People with sleep apnea might think, oh, I just need to get more sleep. But it's the quality of sleep that they are getting, or actually lack of quality that they're getting, that is causing them issues. Night terrors and sleepwalking or sleep talking tend to be issues that are dealt with in childhood. Those usually are sleep disorders that an individual will outgrow. Night terrors are going to be very vivid nightmares that are occurring during deep sleep, during that stage 3 and stage 4 sleep. And so the problem is that the child will wake up screaming and terrified with a racing heart and short of breath, but won't have any conscious recollection as to why. It just feels like they're having a heart attack or that they can't breathe. Nightmares, we all suffer from bad dreams, but those are happening during the REM sleep. And then sleepwalking and talking, again, probably having to do with a child's immature nervous system. That paradoxical sleep means that during REM, we should have our muscles paralyzed, even though the rest of the body's active. But in the case of young kids, that doesn't always seem to be successful. And so to end this video, there's just a table from a Myers text on some suggestions for getting a better night's sleep. And so this will be something that we will discuss in great detail in class to hopefully get some of you with your very busy schedules have your heads hitting that pillow a little sooner than it's happening currently. So bring your questions to class, and thanks for listening.